Who wrote that bio? That was like the best I've ever heard. Email it to me when you can, please. I can start using that. Guys, I'm so happy to be here. And let me tell you, the reflection of your company was experienced even just through my travel here, with how I was taken care of throughout the entire trip. And Miss Abby staying so diligent with making sure that whatever I needed was presented to me. And I'm so thankful. And if this is the only experience I ever have or exposure to the culture of this company, know that you have the biggest super fan in me to talk about MarineMax here out, and it's completely authentic. And be so proud of your leadership, please. Not because they chose me, but just because of how much they care about the success of everybody here and the company, that they would bring a stranger on and treat him like he's one of their own. So thank you guys for that. Now to business. First, if I do a wonderful job, Doug Larson, my West Point classmate, is who connected me here with the company, and it began with me presenting at the Javits Center. If I do a horrible job, Doug Larson is my classmate. So either way, Doug, got it? Okay. Doug is home with COVID right now. Doug was sending me text messages leading up to here saying he wasn't feeling well, but he was still gonna come. He's still gonna come because he's a trooper. And then I got the picture of his COVID test. And I'm like, well, you're out for the count, buddy. So the theme here, complacency. And that's what, I don't even know if that was what I first thought about when I first came to speak at the Javits Center, this concept of being complacent. But it's kind of the whole theme of everybody's life, that at some point we feel like we have enough of something, and that enough usually comes when that something is something tangible that you can hold on to and feel. You can be filled. Your soul can feel complete when it's tangible. So what I have learned is what can never be filled is your soul when it's being driven by a specific or given emotion. An emotion that compels you to move, to make change. And I found mine, or it found me, when I was much younger. And I'll tap into that in a moment, but I want to repeat again complacency. And this is my little formula for that creates a complacent dynamic, and then how to combat it. Complacency takes place when there's an initial experience you have that invokes or inspires a certain type of emotion. It could be that emotion that led you to want to interview for this job at this company. It grabs you and you get hyped, you get excited, and it compels you, it commands you to act. And then what happens is a lot of time elapses between that initial experience that inspired that emotion for the first time and where you are right now in life. A lot of time passes between experiencing what first compelled you to act. Make sense? And so what I've learned, my little thing I do, because I sure have a story to tell you of what experience compelled me to act, driven by an inspired emotion. My little thing is I find ways to revisit that emotion, because I never want to forget what's important to me and what I care about. Caring about. It's what drives us. What do we care about? And so the little tricks I do are, because especially music passes all of our central functioning and gets right to our heart for action, rather. When I'm experiencing something that I realize is touching me, I'll pull out my iPhone and go to Spotify and put on one of the songs that I care about listening to and love, and I'll play it while I'm in that setting. And at the same time, start breathing to try to remember the smell of the air while I'm feeling what I'm feeling, so that anytime I come across that scent again or I seek it out, it can put me back emotionally in that mindset of feeling compelled to act. Or if I can't find that scent, but I know I want to act on something I care about and time is elapsing and I need to revisit that, I'll pull my phone out and put the song on again. Now, what gets challenging with that sometimes is the things that compel us to act the most also sometimes have a pain attached to it. And we don't want to revisit pain or unhappiness. And that's a reason why I think we avoid sometimes revisiting, because we may find something that fulfills that gap that was created, or we realize we had that first emotion presented to us and made apparent. But we found something else to move forward with to bring us happiness. But that doesn't mean that that first thing that compelled you doesn't still exist. It's there. And if you cared about it enough the first time to act on it, then you're still going to care again if it hasn't been filled. The things that expose your emptiness inside that you desperately need to fill with something is still there. You just fill it, maybe you fill another cup, but that first cup is still there. So you got to remember why. Why did I care about it so much in the first place? And how do I get myself to revisit it? So that's the little trick I have with complacency, along with self-talk, which I'll get into. So my story, at the end of my junior year at the best service academy there is, at the end of my junior year, I was going out, I was on leave, and I went to a dance club in Westchester and White Plains. That's my hometown there. And I go to a dance club with my friends, and I remember sitting to the side, I don't know what, a little inebriated, as good 21-year-olds should be when they go out. And I remember seeing a void going through the crowd and a little circle around it, but I couldn't see what was in the center, and it was just moving and moving. And as it went, I saw long blonde hair coming down from a seated position. And I guess there may be somebody there in a wheelchair. And then I thought, I bet nobody goes up to dance with her. Let me go ask her if she wants to dance. And I go, and as I get close enough to be able to speak to her, as us men have learned, women have their first line of defense, which is their friend, steps right in front of me and blocks me. And she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I want to dance with your friend." And she said, "Well, you can't." And I said, "Why can't I?" I didn't say it like that. I said, "Why can't I?" And she said, "'Cause you can't." Same answer. And I said, "May I ask her?" And her friend looked back like this, and I looked over her shoulder, and Kristen looked up and gave me one of these. And then I just nudged her friend to the side. I said, "Thank you." I hadn't seen her face yet until that moment. And squatted down, and this smile that I saw, this smile. And I'll share a little funny story. So I remember we were in the corner, and I'm asking her about her injury, and she's tipsy and I'm tipsy. She explains when she was 10 years old, she dove into a 5-foot pool and broke her neck. And she also told me, I asked her how old she was, and she gave me the age, and she told me how many years she'd been in a chair for. And I did the math real quick. I said, "Wait a minute, you were 16 when you dove into a 5-foot pool? How dumb are you? Why would you do that?" Well, she told me she was older than she was because she thought I was older than I was. And she didn't want to look silly, and she didn't expect me to do the math right there. And so, in addition, she told me they were out for her sister's birthday. And then I didn't realize then when I told my mother this the next day, the math made her and her sister 6 months apart. That doesn't make sense. So a friendship began over my senior year at West Point. And then I had the privilege of being assigned to West Point after graduation because I was being looked at to go compete at the All-Army boxing tournament later that year. And if you win All-Army that year, you go to Armed Forces. And if you win Armed Forces, you're in an Olympic trials slot. Now, West Point didn't understand I wasn't at that level of competition yet, but they still made the appropriation so I could stay at school, help teach boxing at West Point, and then go compete at this, and then later on go to the officer basic course. So I got to live in White Plains back at home and commute to West Point every day, only about 20 minutes away from Kristen. And during that summer, I fell in love with her. I fell hopelessly in love with her. I'm just going to give a little caveat. Every time I have to talk about this, I revisit what matters to me, and it's painful. But I care about it too much not to. And you'll see the emotion as it comes because I can't hide it. So, fell in love with her. Go to All-Army. I win. My third fight out of college. And I never boxed before college. Beat a guy that was ranked #1 in the nation who, when we were in the All-Army training camp, I hear him mention of when he fought Floyd Mayweather as an amateur. And I had to like block it out and think I misheard him. Because it was like, but I was just in gym class and I had to take a boxing class. You fought Floyd and I got to fight you? Oh, okay. It's crazy, right? And I beat him that day. And I wasn't better than him, but that day I was. And for that moment I was. And that's all that mattered. And then I went to the Armed Forces Championship, Camp Lejeune, a brand new butter bar. 5 months being commissioned, fighting a Marine Corps boxing champion on a Marine Corps base. And I thought they were going to kill me when I was walking into the ring. Really, it was hostile. And I beat their dude. And then the next day I fought the All Air Force champion. And the whole Marine Corps gym rooted for me like I was in the Marines. And that's where I learned where the Marines place the Air Force versus everybody else. And I won that. And if I just offended anybody here who's in the Air Force, I apologize. I didn't intend to do that. So please give me grace for that. And then I go to the Olympic trials. Fight at the Olympic trials. Luckily, I fell short. The guy fell short too. My second fight ended up beating a fighter named Miguel Cotto as a pro and won the world title. And if I understood what I was really got myself into, I may have panicked. But at that time, I was so ignorant. I was like, oh, I could beat this guy. Oh, it's just a fight. Wasn't the case, but I competed. And that's what mattered. I competed. And then I went to the officer basic course. And sometime during the officer basic course, I called Kristen on the phone and I said, baby, I love you. I promise you, I am never going to give up on helping you walk again for the rest of my life, for as long as you want me to. And that's the promise that has governed my life and choices. And that promise has brought great difficulties to my life. In interpersonal relationships, in future romantic relationships, because I did dumb things when I was younger, and Kristen and I broke up at a certain point. But I made that promise. And I haven't always kept promises in my life, unfortunately, that I've made. But this one promise that I made was made because something affected me like I had never, ever been affected in my life. And I didn't realize at the time the hold it had on me. I didn't understand. I was 22 when I made that promise. But I've come to learn that something can touch you at the cellular level that can command every decision you make afterwards, as long as you pay attention to what it's doing to you at that time. So I had my why. Why? And how did it command me? So I have my initial emotion that inspired. I have a messload of songs throughout my time with her that I listen to on purpose. It's hard for me to listen to them sometimes, but I force myself to because I never want to forget, because it's too important. And inside won't let me forget. So that's how I know how important it was to me. How it prevents me from becoming lazy and choosing to do something different than what matters to me most. So what did I do? When we were together and I was boxing in the Army's world-class athlete program, and I earned a spot on Team USA, and I would get interviewed all the time because I stand out amongst that cohort of fighters. I was West Point grad, the complexion of my skin, older. These are the kids who, they've been boxing since they're 8 years old, and they go on to become world champions. And I just kind of finagled my way in that mix. When I would be interviewed, I would use that as an opportunity to talk about this buzzword happening in the early 2000s, stem cells and spinal cord injury research, and what I'm learning about the human spirit and resiliency from this human being, Kristen, who at 10 years old broke her neck, missed school, 6 through 8, went to high school, finished high school on time, got her undergrad on time, then got her master's on time, while being quadriplegic. I learned about that. And I would share what I was doing and share where the nature of the work is going in this world, and also start realizing, and this is again the complacency thing, when I would speak to doctors at that time, I learned that doctors will talk at the lowest denominator unless you show your stuff. And at that time, the stem cells were like a buzzword that even a lot of medical doctors weren't so familiar with unless it was their specialty. And how can I possibly help the person that I love the most if I don't understand how to help them? So I started going to school on the computer. I don't mean virtual learning like we do now. I mean Google and Wikipedia and clinicaltrials.gov and learning all these big words. And it was tough because I would be at a page that would have a word I didn't understand, a medical term I didn't understand. So I click on the hyperlink and then it'd bring me to another page and there'd be a whole mess load of other words I don't understand when I'm trying to learn with this one, right? So, I have to go click this button, and then that would take me. And then all these words, but what I started to realize is the words started repeating. And it started making sense. It was kind of like in the Matrix, at the very end, Neo looking at the code, and then all of a sudden it became three-dimensional, and what he'd been looking at the entire time started to make sense. I had to educate myself. I had to. My life outside of boxing for the Army and boxing for Team USA was rushing my butt home and going on the computer and learning, because I was compelled, and because I did not want to stand by and ask somebody else and wait for help when I believed I could do it myself. Because I did not want to feel like I am just a victim in this whole experiment we live in. I wanted to feel like I had creation powers. Like I could help determine the fate that I want to live and what happens. I'm not going to be a bystander and just let it happen to me. Not when I'm compelled to act because I care so much about this thing. I care so much about something that I act on it. And that was my thing. So I'm learning and I'm learning and I'm learning. And then I learn about a clinical trial happening in China that they're actually putting the stem cells in the spinal cord. It's experimental. It's a clinical trial, but you still got to pay for it. And it's tough on an officer's salary, but I didn't care because that pain was hurting too much. So we would do like these local fundraisers in Westchester. I'd be back in, or I'd ask my teammates to help make donations because we need to go to China to have this procedure. And now when I had to go to China with her, 2007, it was 2 months before the tournament to qualify for the Olympic trials. And I went to my coach and I said, Coach, listen, here's the thing. I know this is my job. I know this is my everything, but you have to let me go. I won't be able to train in the interim. I'm going to come back out of shape, but you got to let me go because I won't be good for you here if you don't let me go. And Coach, I'll figure out a way to like exercise while I'm there. And Coach understood me because this is years of being with me. And whenever I come to practice, I'm teaching my teammates about stem cells. Listen what I learned, listen what I learned. And they met Kristen and then they got moved. And so I go to China with her. And one of the things that I refused to remain complacent about brought me to China. But the other thing is, I want to try to make this Olympic team. And I have to come back and try to be in some type of shape. So I made sure to bring some sneakers with me, some workout pants, some everything. And we're in this hospital, and there's a ward for us patients. And in every room, somebody has a different condition, and they're from a different country. You have Lou Gehrig's disease in one room. You have multiple sclerosis in another room. You have muscular dystrophy in another room. You have Alzheimer's. You have spinal cord. And so I'm there helping take care of my baby. And then in the downtime, I'm doing crunches in the hospital room. And then I'm putting on my sneakers and running around smoggy Beijing to try to get my cardio in. And when I watched the movie Creed, if any of you saw that movie, and Rocky has cancer, and then they decide to train in the hospital, it's like, holy shit, that's my story. That's what I did. It's nuts. How did they know? No, I had fun. But I was still compelled to act because there were two things that seemed to always be present in my life that started this chain of events, and it was boxing and it was spinal cord injury. And I always felt complete when I was in those spaces, especially marrying them. I felt whole because that pain inside would quiet down because I was acting on what I care about the most. And I was even suffering, making life more difficult, cutting weight while I'm caring for somebody in another country. And I don't know where I'm running when I go out for my runs, but I got to move my feet because I got to get my heart rate up and try to lose weight. And I was happy with that because I enjoyed giving of myself to try to act on what I care about. I know I keep saying that sentence, but that's really what it is. It's like, what do you care about? What do you care about with every aspect of you? That you can't rest, that as you're falling asleep, that's what you're thinking about. And when you first wake up, that's the first thought that populates your brain. What is that? And then if you don't exactly know what it is, how do you frame something so that it becomes what you need to care about? And if you're showing up here and you're working and you have somebody you take care of with what you earn here, you're framing that you're why you come here and why this matters to you so much and why you're gonna be the greatest you can be, and always approach whoever's coming into the door and try to help them live their dream with the boat that they want to buy and create memories with their family. If you do that, you can have your why as an example of something you could do to create that why. So we went to China and we had the procedure, and she got some improvement. She was able to start to transfer herself from bed to the wheelchair on her own, which she couldn't do before, and then transfer from the wheelchair to use the bathroom on her own, which she couldn't do before, and then back out into her wheelchair, and then into a car. And then the state set her car up so she could drive it manually and get this independence. And she still never showed me how she does that. Actually gets into a car and then gets the chair into the car. I don't know how she does it. I wish I could watch, but she won't show me. And our relationship's much different right now, so I may never get to see it. But it makes me giggle when I think about her maneuvering this and that she's capable of doing this. So, through my story with her, I learned that at Rutgers University, a Dr. Wise Young would host every month, the first Friday of the month, an open house where he would share his research. Now, Dr. Wise Young was one of Christopher Reeve's medical advisors. Dr. Wise Young was trying to bring a clinical trial to the U.S. Dr. Wise Young in the early 2000s was named by Time magazine America's Best in Spinal Cord Injury. And the clinical trial he was trying to bring to the U.S. involved him using umbilical cord blood stem cells and injecting them intraspinally, actually into the cord, right above the injury. Right above, and not below, just right above. And then a rigorous walking protocol. And he needed to raise money for it and get FDA approval. And I had fell short making the Olympic team. I was an alternate, and then I went into medical device sales with Medtronic, Kyphon and Medtronic first in the spinal division. And then I ended up switching companies and going to J&J. And now while I was working in J&J, a light went off because I wasn't going to be complacent. Because I learned that there's a clinical trial that he needs to raise money for. And because the thing that I think about before I go to bed at night and as soon as I wake up is the thing that gives me the grief if I'm not acting on it. And that is, I got to find a way to get her out of this darn chair. And I made a promise. So I went to Dr. Young and I said, I have an idea. When I was in the amateurs, because of my background and being successful, I would get interviewed a lot. And when the microphone's on you, you could say whatever you want. When the camera's on you, that's your chance to talk. But you got to get the camera on you. And I knew that because of my background, as long as I'm being successful, the cameras will come and that will give me a platform. And with this platform, I could talk about this greater thing that I care about. I never spoke about boxing when I was interviewed. That wasn't my why. Why would I ever want to make my life so difficult by working in corporate America, being in the Army Reserve, and then serving in the Army Reserve, and then choosing to squeeze in a boxing career? It caused a lot of hardships in my life in other areas. Why would I ever want to just for that purpose? I didn't care. I didn't grow up boxing. I had to take a gym class. And then I served, and there was a unit where you can do that. And so I tested my ability to see how far I could take it, but that wasn't what I grew up wanting to do. But I wasn't complacent. The thing that bothered me was what commanded me. And because I made a promise, and when I realized that promise was also to myself. And so I said, I'm going to turn pro and I'm going to moonlight and figure out a way to do this. And I'm going to donate everything that I earn. And I'm going to donate it so that if I approach people and I'm like, hey, can you at least give me $1, please? I have a pretty good story to argue back against them if they're bothering me for asking them for $1. And it worked. We ended up raising $400,000. I didn't earn $400,000 in purses, but little things. Here's a quick thing. 99% of boxers, pro boxers, earn 1% of the money in boxing. And 1% of boxers earn 99% of the money in boxing. So what was cool was J&J had a matching program. And I donated to the Spinal Cord Injury Project out of Rutgers, which was on their matching program. 2-to-1, they would match my purses. They would let me speak in the ring, usually with blood coming down my face after and whatever. And I'm talking about this cause. And then we started our own nonprofit, Team Fight to Walk. I came up with that title, Team Fight to Walk. And we threw a gala, and then we raised $100,000 in our first gala we had. And people started caring, and then HBO Real Sports learned about it, and they did our story. And then that helped magnify it. And all these things started coming about because once upon a time, something moved me so much that I made sure that my decisions in life remained in alignment with what once compelled me so strong that I would have everything else in my life revolve around it. And I would never get tired of making choices that ensured that everything else revolved around it, not the other way around. And let me tell you, that still brought a lot of discomfort to my life. You got to imagine what it must have been like trying to be in a relationship with somebody else and still being committed to this. What that would be like for a partner to have to deal with, any partner. And then constantly resulting in me having to make another decision because I'm causing pain to somebody else now, right? And causing pain to somebody else destroys me when I don't ever like to cause pain. I know that sounds funny because I box, but I don't go in there thinking about wanting to hurt them. I just want to win, but I don't want to hurt them. But you kind of got to do both, but that's not my why when I box. I know. It's Dr. Wise Young said to me once, you know, Boyd, I don't know if I can get behind what you're doing because I'm trying to regenerate neurons and you're losing neurons. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Things I know, we don't have to say them out loud. So, I took that moment and I made a point, even after, I'll even leave it to this. The next relationship afterwards was with for 3 years. First, I did a disservice to anybody by trying to be with anybody while I was still committed to this, but I was in my early 20s. I didn't know any better. And this kind human stood by me while the choices I was making driving her crazy because she sees how committed I am to this cause, which involves another woman. I was so committed to that after 3 years of being with this other person and seeing how I just kept repeating in bringing her grief, I ended that relationship because I said to her, the thing that matters the most to me right now brings you pain. And I can't do this to you anymore because I'm not going to stop with this because I promised that I would do this. I promised for the rest of my life I will do this. And because it hurts me too much when I don't do it. So I can't even make the choice to do something else because it hurts me when I don't act on this. Because I'm never complacent. Because she still can't walk. Because she's still paralyzed. And it's affected my soul. Because I care about it too much. Because I know what I need to do. Or at least I believe I know what I need to do. And it involves action. And I'm sorry that it's going to bring this pain to you. I'm so sorry. I did not intend this. But you got to understand, this is me. And if you're going to be with me, first don't give me grief when you know what I'm doing is something I care about so deeply. Otherwise, don't be with me. Because I'm not giving this up. Because I don't even know if I've ever tried to give it up, to see what it felt like. That's how much, that's how strong. You know, even being here talking about it again is me stepping in to that pain. Seeing these being given out and hearing, where this, it's to support what Boyd's doing for spinal cord injury. I revisit that pain every time. But I need to do that. I need to be in that space because it's too easy to choose otherwise. Because I don't even really, Kristen and I, it ended 17 years ago almost. And over the last 8 years, it's been almost no communication. But if somebody were to look at my life and talk to me, they would think every single day I'm talking to her. Every day. That's also why I think other relationships I've had did not work out. Because they could see and feel how I was intertwined with another person's soul on a mission to try to alter reality and change what is possible. But that's how much it struck me. And that's not the only thing that has affected me that way. I've come to learn. I get this knot inside my stomach, a tightness, when I see somebody suffering in anything. And what I tell people when they're always like, boy, I hear this. And I'm like, little do they know, because I do make decisions that cause pain. I don't do that on purpose, but it happens. If they only knew that the things I may be doing that you see all these little achievements for, they only knew it's not all altruistic. It's because it stops the pain inside. It stops this tightness I have when I see suffering and I believe I can impact change. And even if that change just means going up to the person and being next to them while they're hurting so they're not alone. Going and approach the person, the stranger, the person walking in to look at all the new boats. Walking up to them because my why is entangled with that. My why, being with somebody and helping bring them joy. And I'm going to pivot. Am I almost out of time? Oh. I'm going to pivot now because I'm going to make this more centric to you guys. You know, when I went to the Javits Center and Doug invited me, one part here first too. I'm here because Doug was not complacent. Doug needed to figure out, how do I fire up my team? Doug reached out to me because he knows that this is my shtick. He reached out to me and said, can you come please? Because I believe your energy will help raise my team. He was not complacent. He needed to find something. So he thought and went into his resources. And that led me to being here right now with you all. When I went there, my speech happened in real time because I walked in, and this is what I shared there. I walked into this exhibit or display, excuse me if I'm not defining it properly. I walk in and I see the greatest toys in my life I've ever seen for an adult. These badass freaking yachts that I only see in movies. First movie I thought of was All About the Benjamins with Ice-T and Mike Epps and the yacht boat thing that they have. And like, I got to transport myself into the mindset of everybody walking in. Us dudes want to look cool. So when we walk in, I don't care what the guy may look like walking in the room or how quiet he is. He's thinking in his brain, I'm going to speak for a male because I'm a male. He's thinking in his head, am I going to look cool in this thing? He's visualizing. On top of the memories I want to create and the experience for my loved ones and family, am I going to look cool? How do I know that? Because that's what I thought. I wanted to play with every single thing in there. I had never been to an exhibit with boats like that. And I know everybody coming in there is going in there because they want to find the boat that they want. Not if I can get a boat, I want to find. And I thought, oh man, if I worked here, I would feed off of that Every time I walked up to someone with excitement, like, dude, let me help you live your dream. Come on, come on. What do you want? What do you want? Show me what you want. I know you want to look cool. What do you think makes you look cool? Dude, you're about to create the greatest moments for your family, the greatest story. And I'm so proud of you for creating a life for yourself that you can offer these experiences. It's a magical experience being out on the water with your loved ones. And when you're the person that created that, imagine that sense of self and worth, that the things that you care about the most, your why, your family, you're giving them this experience. Like I would go up to them like, dude, I'm here to help you win. Let's get it. Let's get it. I know that's what you want. You wouldn't be in here. And don't come in here all stoic looking. Let the little kid come out that's inside looking around. It's okay. It's okay. And I know that's the case because I remember how I felt when I first walked in here. I remember. And how much of a blessing is it that your job or my job would be to go up to somebody and help them find like the page that they're going to look at in the story of their life and design the page based off of how they looked or what does it look like when they were on the boat with their family and what did the boat look like and what were like the amenities on it that I wanted to rock out with. It made me feel cool and like that I could give my children. We know what it's like to have children or to be our parents' child and the joy it brings them to provide for us. That's what this business is. You're helping them live something that almost nobody gets to experience. And it's such joy. Joy. Being out on the water in a boat with your loved ones and you, because of the choices you, the person who owns the boat, made, are now able to provide this for them. That's a heck of a why for me. Because I can never be filled with that why. Because that's like an addiction to that high that we get. And the cool part is, in this business, you win by helping them win. And they come in there wanting to win. Your job is to be their, to be their wingman. I'm here to help you win, and it's gonna make me win. And we're all gonna feel great. There's no downside to you winning in this business, you being the customer. And it's always and you winning as a byproduct is always the byproduct. But you gotta know, why are you doing it? Why do you care? Why do you care? What are you trying to grab onto that you know will never be filled so you're always forced to have to try to reach extra for it? And I don't know, helping somebody create a future for their family that involves that type of experience is something personally I don't think I would ever be like, no, I'm cool, someone else can do it. No, I want that feeling every time. I want to feel that in here. I want to think maybe one day, X amount of years from now, I'm gonna run into this person and they're gonna get to tell me about all of these things they got to do because one day, once upon a time, they walked into MarineMax and I came up to them and I helped them pick out the joy machine, their boat. I think that's pretty cool, being able to do that. I'm getting thrown off because there's different times here and I don't wanna, is it the right 9:50? And go until, I have till 10? All right, good, okay, I got 10 more minutes. PM. I'll go all, I wish I could filibuster. You don't even know. If I ever became a congressman, I'd set the record, put me in the front. I'm telling you guys everything, I'm never stopping. Swear to God, I think I've told my mother that before. I wish I could be there and you guys have to listen to me talk all day. I got stories. Here's a story. One time during one of my fights, so the brachial plexus, brachial means arm, plexus is bundle, and coming off So your C6 vertebrae is the big lumpy one. You have 7 vertebrae in your cervical spine, but good anatomical marker, that big lumpy one. And from your C4 to your T1, which is the first thoracic, which is the first one below the big lumpy one, there's a bundle, and they connect and they control all the feeling and movement in this arm, your left brachial plexus, and all the feeling and movement in this one, your right brachial plexus. I'm in a fight. It's the 3rd round. No, it's halfway through the 4th. I throw a hook when we're close, and it lands funny. And then all of a sudden, it's as if this weighed 1,000 pounds, and my arm starts dropping. He's wailing away on me. I'm keeping this in here, and it just so happens, because of my knowledge of the central nervous system now, I start assessing myself. While he's punching, I'm like, holy shit, am I having a stroke? Like, it dropped. So he's hitting me here. I'm making sure I can move my face here, because I know when you have strokes, when you're having a stroke, you lose sensation, you lose motor function here. So he's hitting, I'm doing this, and the arm's just dropping and dropping. And when the moment ended, and I watched the tape of it too, I back up and I look down at my hand, because I'm checking myself. I don't understand. I couldn't even move my fingers in my glove. They were so heavy. And what I came to learn is I suffered a neuropraxia, which is a stretching of the nerves and the myelin sheath, or that encapsulates the nerve. So if the nerve was your forearm, it'd be the sleeve over it. And that's a damage. But it can be, the peripheral nerves can heal depending on how they're damaged. And that's the least of the injuries. But I suffered it's a stinger. You heard stingers in football. Now, I always thought stingers was something temporary, where it happens, you come off the field, it's a stinger, just the sound of it, oh, when it stops stinging, I'll be back in. I didn't realize that that's a long recovery, took me 4 months. But during the fight, it happens, and I back up, and I'm going like this, and in my brain, I went through a process. I can't pick my hand up to defend myself. I'm gonna get hurt. I have to tell the ref I can't do this anymore. Let me drop to a knee. Then the very next moment, I had flashes through my head. I had a vision in my head of when I saw Kristen in therapy, holding with the walker, with her leg braces on, and forcing her legs. And then I had a flash of the word West Point. And then I had I thought of my last name, and I could see it on my uniform. And I thought, I'm a West Point graduate. My last name is Melson. I still have one arm. This motherfucker's got to beat me. And I fought the rest of the fight until maybe the 7th round, when I could do that, until I tried to block a punch with it there, and it was jello. And I remember I was like, oh, that doesn't work. And I fought this dude like this. Now, I think it was more of how crappy of a boxer he was than how good I was doing. Because God help anybody if they ever line up in front of me like this and I realize they can't use one arm. Saying that. But he had to have recognized it. But I ended up being successful. And I made a decision. I am fighting for something I care about. And I'm raising money and I'm donating. And the better I do in the ring, the greater my echo chamber will be from this platform I have. And if I'm asking Kristen to never give up and she can't walk, how dare I try to give up right now when I can still fight back? When I can still fight back? How dare I? And I went on and I got the W. Now, I didn't always get a W when I've been injured, because I've been injured before. When I fought at the Naval Academy for the National Collegiate Championships in 2001, I re-broke my hand in the semis. And when I say re-broke, earlier that year, I first broke my hand. I didn't realize I broke it, and I fought with one hand, but I at least could raise it up because the arm wasn't dead, and I won. So that at least gave me an experience of dealing with this adversity, dealing with potentially somebody telling you, no, I'm not interested, but dealing with it. and seeing that as long as I keep trying, I'm still in the fight. And I remember coach was warming me up in the back, before we were going in. I was fighting an Air Force grad, right? An Air Force guy. And coach at one point said to me, my hand was in so much pain. I think he told me to try it out. And he said, you know, Boyd, you don't have to fight if you don't want to. This is the finals of nationals, like the match. You don't have to fight. And I won nationals the year before. I'm defending. You don't have to fight if you don't want to. And I looked at coach, my 19 going on 20-year-old self. Yeah. And I said, my 20-year-old self going on 21 later that year. I said to coach, I know for certain if I don't try, I can't win. And so I went out there with a broken hand, going into the fight with it broken. I didn't use it. I fell short and lost the match. And I lost. I didn't become national champion. I fell short. And then that Air Force goes to me after, hey, don't worry, buddy, you'll get it next year. And I thought to myself, you know I didn't throw this hand the whole fight. How dare you try to say this silly stuff? I wish you weren't graduating so I could whoop you next year. Don't worry, buddy. You'll get him next time. I'll get you in about a month from now after this heals. So, but again, at that point, I hadn't met Kristen yet. At that point, what I cared about was competing. I didn't care so much. My why was not about winning. It was about competing. And if I can still compete, I'm going to go out there. Even if I fall short, I'm still competing. That's an act. I can't get full if competing is what I care about. Winning a title is something I can get full from. But competing, that's why I'm doing this. So I understood why. And I'm going to bring this back now to my personal life with where I am, because this is central. Presently, my lack of complacency has inspired me to try to create a documentary, sharing the stories of some of my friends who have spinal cord injuries, who've done incredible things despite their injuries. And one of my best friends who has cerebral palsy, and he has cerebral palsy to the extent where it's not too far off from Stephen Hawking's. Please, Devin, I'm learning to understand him, but I'm not around him enough to get used to the words, but I'm getting better. And he's helped work on Hollywood films. For our documentary, I told him, and this is the unfortunate part of our country that we've learned is a central casting that matters for things. I said, Devin, no one's gonna believe that somebody that's in your position has done these things. And especially when we're filming you, that we have to have somebody translating what you're saying. They're not gonna believe it. Can you ask one of your friends, star friends, to be on camera with you the entire time? And he did. And Mark Ruffalo said yes. And so the Hulk, my favorite Marvel character from my childhood, and probably because I align with him of being the David Banner. And I'm in a doctoral program now, so I'm finishing that David Banner part. Bruce Banner, excuse me, David Banner. David Banner played Bruce Banner, yeah. The Bruce Banner part. And then I have this other side to me. And I guess that's why I was born with green eyes, so I'm kind of always angry. So he's gonna be on. And we have a couple of different emerging regenerative therapies that are coming out, that are not made it to clinic, but he put in research and helping mice walk again. I'm tired of seeing mice walk. If you're a mouse, you have a better chance of walking again than a human in America. It's ridiculous. And we're gonna look at combining that with the very first thing that's been FDA approved that restores function. There's something that exists now that can get us doctor will prescribe for you and it gets reimbursed. It's crazy. It's called the ARC-X. They put an electrode above the injury on the skin, an electrode below the injury on the skin, and then they put one on your chest to ground it. And what it does is they send a charge in, and it super excites the energy, as if it was a train track missing a link, super excites the electricity, your natural body's energy, and it's called the evoked motor potential, like the potential for it to travel. They excite it enough that it jumps over the gap, and then it finds any nerves that have been spared, and they pair it with telling them to do a movement or commit something. And it's working. 90% of people that they tried it on in their phase 3 that got the FDA approval, 90% either got hand function or upper body function or strength return. And they've been paralyzed for years. And 72% got both. And my dear brother, Corey, who lives in Cleveland, for 16 years, he said, sitting in my chair, if I closed my eyes, I couldn't tell you where my hands are. And he has 2 daughters. And he put himself through law school after he broke his neck. And he was able to have children after he broke his neck. And after the very first time using this thing, he was able to pick up a peg out of a hole and put it down in another one. And fast forward 4 months, he's sending me videos of him throwing a basketball into a small hoop. And then he just posted a picture of him holding his daughter, her name is Khaleesi, Game of Thrones, holding her in, this little blonde hair Khaleesi, 4-year-old adorable thing. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this dude couldn't do this. He couldn't hug his daughter for 16 years. Well, she's not 16, but he couldn't hug his daughter for her whole life. And this thing came about, and now he can hug his daughter. And those are the things that compel me. And I don't have children yet, but I sure as heck know what it would be like for my mother not to be able to hold me. Because I feel how much she loves me every day. I feel it because she accepts me no matter how angry I make her. So that's how I know how much it would mean to her. And that's one of them. We're going to combine therapies. And along with it, and here's the really cool part. Well, here's another cool part. Because remember I said, when you get the cameras on, that's when you can say what you want. So in America, USA Boxing, which is amateur boxing, they have passed adaptive boxing, meaning they allow for wheelchair boxing. However, and you can move. However, it's only if your injury is waist down. So if you have a lower lumbar spinal cord injury, visibly it just looks waist down, but it's higher up than the waist where the injury is. So they don't allow you waist up. However, in a country like the UK, they don't give a crap. They put a sleeve around the back of the chair, and it goes around the front of your torso. So if you're leaning forward, it pulls you back so you don't lose balance. And if you can box, you box. And it looks like in 2028, when the Olympics are hosted in California and Los Angeles, we're hosting it, this is going to be added to the Paralympic sports. And right now, America's behind. They're not going to allow people with waist-up type of conditions to compete. And I have a dear friend who's going to be featured in this documentary, and his name is Donahue. Donahue Ace Fields. What a dope name. Donahue Ace Fields. And Donnie's a boxer. And Donnie suffered a spinal cord injury a little over 20 years ago. And then a little over 15 years ago, he became a double leg amputee above the knees because of pressure sores. And Donnie says it wasn't until his dog was killed later that he became suicidal. But he's still here. And Donnie's been fighting for years to try to be able to be allowed to compete in a wheelchair. Now, I've been in a chair across from Donnie and sparred with him. And we did this on a news segment. And I went into this thinking, as soon as I sat down, I down-regulated my intensity, and then 2 times getting my head snapped back, 3 seconds into the match, I thought to myself, holy shit, this is real. And then he starts commentating. Oh, gotcha. He's saying all this stuff. And I'm like, you set me up. I didn't know. Donnie moves in a chair, boxes from a chair with the same amount of movement we do. So it was just like somebody sitting down. I didn't know that was coming. He got me. But I'm going to get even. And this is why. Because our documentary is going to involve he and I having a glorified sparring match. And two of my close friends from Team USA who went on to become world champion boxers, one named Sean Porter, two-time welterweight champion of the world, other Demetrius Andrade, two weight class and two-time champion of the world. And Demetrius was the only American I couldn't beat when I was in the amateurs. I lost him in the finals, US Nationals. We went on to become lifelong friends. And it so happens his brother became paralyzed 3 years ago. And I told him, this is crazy. This is crazy that this has happened. Only 300,000 Americans at any given time are paralyzed. And it's costing our economy, our government, $10 billion every year of tax dollars to care for the 300,000. 300,000 equals 10 billion. That doesn't make sense. And none of that 10 billion is going to get them out of their chairs. It's to keep the status quo. It's crazy. And nobody knows that. Right? $10 billion. Before we start firing people from federal jobs, let's cure some stuff to free up some money. And the best thing is if you give me my hands back, I can work. And if I can work, I can pay taxes into the system. This is all part of the documentary and the narrative going in there. But Donnie and I are going to have this match with Sean working his corner and Boo Boo's his nickname, working my corner. What's also interesting is my last girlfriend I'm having, I say this because we're going to civil court on the 12th to get married. Because I found somebody who loves people the way I love people. And my God, I can't believe I was given this second chance. So her nickname for me, she's Filipina. They're the most incredible humans and joyful humans there are. And I also am not allowed to fold my own clothes anymore. And she folds them like they're in a J. Crew magazine, and I don't know how she does it. And now I'm back to hospital corners on my freaking bed, like I'm back at school. And her nickname for me is Boo Boo, short for Boyd. But the dude I fought and lost to at the Nationals, Demetrius Andrade, his name is Boo Boo. So I have to hear her saying my friend's name all the time when she's talking to me, the guy that made the Olympics over me. And sometimes I text him and just let him know, you're an a-hole. And I'll screenshot her texting me, calling me Boo Boo, and send it to him. He's one of my best friends. So what compelled me, because I'm closing it out now, my lack of wanting to be complacent, because I'm constantly trying to figure out how do I affect this change, is we started a GoFundMe for this documentary. When Doug asked me to come and speak, I came because I cared about trying to offer my value at Javits Center. And this incredible company donated to my GoFundMe at that time. And then when you both opened up to ask me to come here, and I said yes because I care about this, you guys chose to give so much more. I want you to know that MarineMax has contributed $8,000 towards this GoFundMe for the documentary for this purpose. $8,000 is a lot of money. That's probably around like a sixth of the overall budget. That's a lot. It's a lot that happened because I found people that care about things and want to help make somebody win. when they know that they care about something. They want me to win for this the same way the people that come in to look at these boats, you gotta want them to win. And that feeling that it gives you guys in your hearts, seeing how it affects me, I know how that feels because I get that feeling when I help people, when I see that something I do creates that emotion for somebody else. And when the boxing part is going to get the sex appeal part of it to get the eyes on. And also, Donnie's going to show the country that not only can he compete from a wheelchair, but he can hold his own, even though he's going to take the loss. He's going to hold his own against a professional boxer. Show America that. But when the eyes are on, that's when we get to show the stuff about emergent regenerative therapies. And one of the features in our story is a former congressman who broke his neck 2 Septembers ago falling off a horse. And he happens to be friends, because they were suite mates when they were freshmen in Congress, with the current secretary of the VA. And he said that if I get improvement from this combination, I'm going to press the secretary of the VA to try to have the VA fund a combination therapy. Because the challenge is, when companies put all of their resources behind a certain modality of therapy and it turns out to work, they get paid and everybody's happy. But if another company does the same thing and it attends to a different part of the puzzle for healing and they get paid, they're happy. Why would they join to create an end state that's better collectively than their independent ones, and then have to figure out who gets paid? They wouldn't. And I explained that to the congressman. And that's a central focus of this documentary. And he got it. They're operating in silos. They have to come together as a team. And the VA can fund that because it's going to take those type of dollars. But that's what's at stake here with this documentary and this GoFundMe. And you guys have helped me so much. And collectively, everybody here, there's you two. It's one. And I'm forever grateful and thankful. And I'm not done yet. And I don't mean with this speech. I'm done with this. I'm not done with acting, because I'm never going to be complacent until she's walking. I'm never, because I care about it too much. I know what I care about, and I put the time in to learn about it and equip myself so that I could strategize and formulate plans. And this is the latest one I'm doing with this GoFundMe. And if it doesn't work, I'm not stopping. I risked my life 18 times in that ring for this. It's cost me a lot of grief in my life with my relationships and with my family, and my mother hating seeing me get hit in the head. But I'm never going to stop because I care too much, and I refuse to let too much time go by of not revisiting that emotional space. And as you can see, it gets me every time. But I don't care, because I care more about that than how it affects me. So I welcome it. I welcome it so I can compete, so that the little voice in my head never wins. And I say my thoughts out loud. All of you chose to be in this business because you cared about something once that compelled you enough to be here. Never forget what that was, and figure out little tricks to remind yourself, and do it all the time. And share that with your team. Little tricks to remind you why you first chose to do this in the first place, so you never get full. Questions? Any questions? I went over time. I ate into my questions time, and I apologize. Are there any questions? Bueller? Sure.
I was at the Javits Center.
I remember your face.
That was amazing. I just wanted to say thank you. Really, really inspired.
Yeah, I love being I love giving hugs and being hugged. If anybody say hi, I love it. I love it so much. So just letting you guys know that. And thank you for wearing my incredible Hulk colored ribbon that matches my West Point class ring.
Hi, how are you?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, you're. It was just amazing. Really enjoyed it and really feel it's from the heart. Just want to say thank you. The other question is, what is your documentary called and when can we see it?
Thank you. When can we see it? I don't know yet because we have to make it. But the plan, because we're not done raising money as well. So I've been back and forth with the treating physician. It looks like in the beginning of April, it's going to be once a month for 3 months getting treated. And we decided we're going to start the filming after the 3 because, God willing, people have made improvements. That gets captured when they talk about their story. But in the interim, we've told them we have 5 different human beings, 4 with spinal cord injuries, 1 with cerebral palsy, and told them you have to use your iPhone and take little home videos, do all that. So we have that footage to populate. And then sometime this summer, and the boxing gym is Gleason's Boxing Gym in Brooklyn, world famous gym. They're going to be the one that they already said yes to letting us do the match there. The sparring match, not an official match. They said yes, and I'm hoping before this year is done, the whole post-editing is knocked out. This most magnificent blessing came with this director we just got connected with, who is cellularly, that's my word I made up, cellular, and ChatGPT loved it, cellularly involved and compelled in this because of his life, and he's a boxer too. And I wanted the title Fighting Back, because what this is doing, what we're trying to do is invoke change at a policy level that gives us a chance, at least gives us a chance to fight back instead of remaining the status quo. That's in allowing for boxing and adaptive and Paralympics, adaptive sports, and that's with therapy. It's because you plateau pretty quick with spinal cord injury. Usually after that first year, that's about where you are, regardless of almost all the therapy you do, almost. Here's an important part. In our central nervous system, there's a law that governs regeneration. It's called Hebbian regeneration. It's simple. What fires together, wires together. Anyone ever hear of that or that term? Fires together, wires together. So if I can consistently create a new pathway for long enough, even if it's with assistance through this ARC-X device, eventually that will turn into the pathway that's used and not requiring the arc exon any longer. So it's amazing, but it's repetition. It's putting in the rounds, putting in the rounds, putting in the rounds. So my buddy Devin, cerebral palsy, who's worked in Hollywood, he pooped all over my title. And I'll tell you what he said. He gave me this title. I'll bring it up right here. I should know it by heart, right? So that's how prepared I am. He likes KO, a way to fight back. I said to him, how about I am fighting back? He wrote, no, mine is better. He said, pick one. So he gave me, oh, this is it. I think I like fighting back because he offered that. I wanted, let us fight back. And he said, that's not good. So, no, I wrote, let them fight back is what I put. And he said, first, it needs to be us because it's us. No one cares what you want, Boyd. It's us that want to fight. And then KO, a way to fight back. I think that's I think fighting back is what we're going on. And that's when I said that initially, fighting back. And that's really what it is. They're all fighting back literally with Donnie. And then the rest over there with being brave enough. See, when you invest your time and your spirit in trying to do something that's not supposed to be possible, you open yourself up to being hurt if it doesn't work. And it's scary to believe. There's a lot of risk involved with belief when something has never happened yet. And especially when you've believed a lot and it never happened. It's a traumatic experience to allow yourself to hope again. And so what do I carry? If this doesn't work, I then inspired hope again. And then they became deflated. But they and I know that if we don't try, nothing happens. If I don't get in the ring, even if it's just one hand, I can't win. So I got to try. So fighting back before this year is out. This new director has a lot of connections to make this thing known. I got to be on a Zoom with Mark Ruffalo and told him, I need you to mobilize your universe, please. Not your, yeah, no pun intended, universe Marvel type. I need you to mobilize them to let them know what we're doing, because I got to get more eyes on. Oh, I also want to say a cool thing. I have a picture from a fight where I got popped here and it cut me and the blood's down. And the pictures from in the ring like this with the whole thing of blood here. And I sent it to Mark and he wrote back, "You're the real Hulk." And I put that shit on my social media. Like, this is my favorite character ever. I can't believe my life story involves, I got the dude who played the Hulk writing that. And little does he know, I may not always be mad, but I'm never content because of how this affected me and my why. So that answers your question over there. I hope I did. I know I went on a little tangent. Thank you.
Quick question.
Of course.
You mentioned at times you'd find yourself drifted towards complacency or recognizing when that would happen. And then you would cue a song or a mindset to take yourself back to that special spot. But in your training and success as a boxer, and then obviously in this pursuit further, what have been some key principles to have the discipline that it takes to be consistent in that pursuit of staying in your why?
Thank you. And that's an awesome question. Everybody's question is awesome. I apologize for singling out yours. Everybody's question is awesome. And I spoke to this when we were at the Javits Center. I talk to myself out loud all the time. And it's funny because sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it when I'm walking through the streets of Manhattan. And when I catch myself, I stop and I look to see who's looking at me like I'm crazy. You know, it's happening. So one of the things I've committed to, and if you're all interested, I have a spoken word track that's on YouTube called Say It Out Loud. It's to help people with their mental health experiences and help give them a tool if they're trapped in their pain. It's on YouTube, Say It Out Loud. It's emotional. It's a video to it, a video is made. I'm not in the video, but it's my voice and everything. And I promised myself, I pack details in when I speak to myself out loud, because I learned that when just only the little person in here is talking, you tend to skip over words, and whatever you may be feeling at that time, those are the words that pop up in your head, and you make these little internal compromises. If you're feeling tired or fatigued, and you said, I did a lot yesterday. I'll let this one go today. I don't need to go to this person. One of my teammates will go approach them. something like that. And I was like, wait, I got to say this out loud so I can hear it, because I may be lying to myself, because if I'm saying that, I didn't take this job. I'm going to make it specific to here. I didn't choose to work for MarineMax so that I could decide that I'm going to take it off and let one of my teammates do this. And I sure as heck know, when I interviewed for the job, my boss said, would you not go and approach a customer coming in because you want to let one of your teammates and you feel you've done enough? If they asked me that, I sure as shit wouldn't say yes, because I wouldn't get hired, right? So if I then wouldn't say it, why would I allow myself to say that in my own head? So say it out loud. I say it all. I talk, and I pack it. And if I say, I'll let this guy go get it, in my head, I'll say out loud, well, if I let this guy go get it and if I work off commission, that means that's less money for my family. So do I not want to take care of my family the best? Who do I love the most in this world? This is like an all outside dialogue with myself, monologue rather. Who do I love my family the most? I have to go do this. All right, I guess I got to go. It's helps my family. If you keep that stuff in your head, you'll make compromises that are not real, that are not in alignment with your initial why. So I talk to myself. I need to hear what I'm thinking. And then it's almost like you detach yourself, your I, where you're assessing the decisions that the avatar we live in is trying to make to do. Like, you got to get your little voice in here to get the legs to move, to go walk over to the person and start talking to them, to try to help them win with living their dreams with their family. And the little voice inside may say something different, but the person that we're inside lives a life that has demands on it that you need to make money for, and you're not going to make money for it if you're not doing your job the best you can at all times. So I talk and I have these discussions, and I'm honest with myself. I think that voice in our head, the one organically that comes out, never lies. I think when we talk back to it, that's when we lie. Case in point, and I think all experience this, especially in school growing up. You know, there's been some times when you had a test you had to study for, and it's something competed, like hanging out with your friends. And you're like, okay, beforehand, tonight, I'm gonna go study. You sit down, you're about 20 minutes into studying, buddy hits you up. Hey, you wanna go do something? You say to yourself, man, but they're all asking is really nice. You know what? I studied enough. That voice never tells you, yeah, you studied enough. That voice is always like, dude, are you crazy? You know you haven't studied enough. You know you haven't. What are you doing? It's like that honesty. I don't know, the divine spark, the something. It doesn't lie to you. Listen to it and say it out loud. That's my little trick. I talk to myself all the time. It's almost like talking to somebody else and having them talk back to you. If you're honest, say what you're thinking, assess it, and then counter it like back. But don't do it that way. I'm just saying that's like what it actually looks like. One of the things I've just started to do, I'm trying to catch this into real time. It's going to take some time. Is I refer to myself when I'm thinking as he. He is the actual person living, doing this, whatever. So I'll be like, what does he want to do today? Well, he wants to have a good day, and the things that'll make his day good are following this and this and this. How can I help him do that? So the challenge then comes is when you know that what makes his life better is this, him being you, but then you're like, but I really want to do that. So it's almost like two separate people living in here. It's the life and the actions and the behaviors for what this avatar wants to do versus the little voice in our head competing with it. So if you say it out loud at least and think, and then you can't lie to yourself. But I refer to myself as he when I think about myself. So like separates, because you know how we always give great advice to our friends, but we never take it? for ourselves, right? It's helping me combat that by referring to myself as he. Like, I'm giving this dude advice for what's best for his life. The hard part is, but sometimes I want to do something different. And then acknowledging that in real time out loud. All right, you're saying this stuff, and I know you want to do, but who are we committing to today? We got to commit to him today. You can take care of you later. That's my little trick. That was that, yeah. You're bringing out the curtain. What do you,
I just want to say thank you so much.
oh, I love it.
We really
Come
appreciate
here.
it. We appreciate it. We can hear your passion. It's it's moving for all of us. So thank you so much for spending
I'm
time
so
with us.
thankful for what you guys have given me and allowed me to be here. And the whole trip's been so wonderful. And where you sat me on the airplane was awesome. Gave me a little bit more space in the front, and thank you. And then I'm serious. And the hotel was wonderful. And being picked up this morning and then giving to this cause that is everything I just spoke about. Just thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.